The Deputy First Minister, Siún Robinson, is expected to update MSPs on the Scottish Government's work to provide WhatsApp messages from during the pandemic to a public inquiry. It's been reported that messages sent by the former First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, were manually deleted from her phone. It means they can't be given to the UK or Scottish COVID inquiries, which are looking at how the pandemic was handled. Well, we asked to speak to Nicola Sturgeon, but we were told she wasn't available, nor was Jason Leach, the National Clinical Director, or in fact anyone from the current government, including the First Minister and Deputy First Minister. So let's speak now to Scottish Labour's Deputy Leader Jackie Baillie about this. Good morning to you. I understand you've written to the First Minister's office about this. What are you asking for?
We've written to both the First Minister and the Permanent Secretary because we believe the First Minister has actually misled Parliament, given the statements that he made both to Anas Sawa in June and indeed last week, where he confirmed that all officials past and present had complied with the Do Not Destroy notice. That turns out not to be the case. He also confirmed that everything had been handed over in full, guaranteed all communications, including WhatsApp and Signal messages. That also turns out to not be the case. And we have Jason Leach, a very senior member of the government, saying that he deleted them daily, and then the Scottish Government denying it. So, at one level, you've got the First Minister misleading Parliament. At another, you've got the Scottish Government, politicians and civil servants, not complying with a Do Not Destroy notice issued by the UK COVID inquiry, and then you have politicians and senior officials not complying with the Scottish Government's own document retention policy.
Have you had a response yet?
Levels, they need to act. No, we haven't had a response. Unsurprisingly, I think we only wrote at the weekend, so I suspect the statement is part of the response. But to be honest with you, a statement from the Deputy First Minister, who wasn't involved in this, is not the right approach. It should be the First Minister. He was the one who gave the commitment in the Chamber, and he should be held to account for all of the government's actions.
Saying that the First Minister misled Parliament is a very bold statement, because if you don't know when or if these messages have indeed been deleted, then you don't know whether they breached the Do Not Destroy notice.
Well, we certainly know they breached their own Scottish Government's document retention policy that would have required that these messages are retained, not deleted, whether it's auto-deleted or manually deleted. That would have not been allowed by the Scottish Government's own policy, never mind the UK COVID inquiry. And what was interesting is the counsel to the UK COVID inquiry last week said specifically about WhatsApps that they were used to discuss the COVID response. And he got that from others who had contributed evidence to the inquiry. So we know that they're important. We know that they provide valuable context to what was going on. But actually, the most important thing for me is I think the withholding of evidence like this is disrespectful and insulting to bereaved families who lost loved ones to COVID, because they were promised answers by government, and it looks like information is deliberately being withheld.
Well, a spokesperson for Nicola Sturgeon says that she will continue to cooperate with what the inquiry is asking her, including giving oral evidence. We know that she's submitted recently 200 pages of written evidence, so it's not like there's no evidence being submitted.
No, but WhatsApp messages are not being submitted. We know they existed. We know that she's manually deleted them. And this is important evidence. These were people who were central to decision-making: Nicola Sturgeon, John Swinney, Humza Yousaf, Jason Leach, and they appear to have deleted WhatsApp messages. Now, the reason it's so important as well is the whole point of a public inquiry is to establish what happened, what went wrong, so that we learn lessons for the future. It's difficult when partial information is provided in the way that the Scottish Government have treated this UK COVID inquiry.
Do you retain all your WhatsApp messages?
I do. They would make for very dull reading, I suspect, particularly the ones between myself and my daughter about what's for tea.
Yeah, but in terms of, yourself and colleagues, if you're discussing parliamentary or constituency business, do you use WhatsApp, and do you ensure that all of those messages are there in case somebody wants to put in a Freedom of Information request?
Yes, all those messages are there. I retain my WhatsApp messages. In fact, WhatsApp has a feature that can auto-delete messages, and actually anybody in that group will know when somebody has turned on disappearing messages, I think it's called. So, the fact that Nicola Sturgeon deleted them manually suggests to me that she wasn't the admin on those WhatsApp groups. So, at the end of the day, whatever the process is, what's important is this provides valuable context for the UK COVID inquiry and indeed the Scottish one. And despite saying they would cooperate fully, we have the SNP government doing exactly the opposite. And the people I think that are let down most by this are the bereaved families and indeed all of us who need to learn lessons because there will be future pandemics. We need to know why, for example, or who took the decision to discharge people untested into care homes, why decisions were made about thousands of people being effectively locked away from loved ones in care homes.
Okay.
Why was the Nike conference covered up in the first place and people not told about it? All these issues matter for our future learning about pandemics.
Who's right when it comes to your party's position on a ceasefire in Gaza, your Scottish boss or your London leader?
Well, look, I think it's genuinely a really complicated situation. It changes daily. I certainly believe in a ceasefire. I don't think Hamas will necessarily agree to it. We do need to open up humanitarian corridors so that enough aid, medical supplies, food and water are getting in. And of course, on both sides, I don't want to see innocent civilians being killed.
If you believe in a ceasefire and Anna Sarwar believes in a ceasefire, and we're told that more than half of the shadow cabinet believe in a ceasefire, we're seeing members of your party resign at council level because of this. Why is Sir Keir Starmer so out of touch with the party?
I don't think he's out of touch with the party. He is reflecting what is going on at an international level, both with the UK government and indeed international partners. I think it is a really complex situation that changes daily. It would be, I think,
can he just not say that,
irresponsible.
Do you think?
I think it would be irresponsible to rush to judgment. I can only tell you my view when I watch what's going on the television. The kind of emotional response is that you want the fighting to stop. You want innocent lives to be saved.
Just a few weeks ago, we were at your party conference in Liverpool. Sir Keir Starmer was riding high. He'd never been more popular. And now more than half the shadow cabinet disagree with him publicly.
No, I think he remains popular. Labour remains well ahead in the polls, although we take nothing for granted. I think there will be moments in time where leadership is tested, but he is privy to more information than certainly I am, and I'm not going to second guess what he's doing. I can only express my view about it, as Anna Sarwar has done.
But do you think he needs to change his position so that the party isn't out of step with perhaps public opinion and wider international opinion?
It is absolutely right that members of the Labour Party continue to press their case to Keir Starmer and to others about what needs to be done, but there are complexities here that we need to be respectful of, and the main issue for me is opening up that humanitarian corridor, stopping the killing of innocent civilians, and on that we are absolutely all united.
The Green Party co-leader Lorna Slater was on the Sunday show yesterday. She says her party would be prepared to talk to Labour in the event that perhaps Labour needed help to form a coalition government after the next Scottish elections. She said independence wouldn't be a red line. Would you be open to discussions with the Green Party on something like that if the situation came about?
I think we're talking hypothetical situations well in advance of any election. Look, the Scottish Parliament elections are 2 years away. We aspire not to be in coalition, but to actually have a majority government. That will depend on the electorate. I'm not going to second guess that so far ahead of time based on one interview from a Green minister. Talking about elections, though, Ash Regan has become Alapa's first MSP in Holyrood. Do you think there should be a by-election in her Edinburgh Eastern constituency now that she's moved from the SNP? Well, it looks as if the SNP are losing their representatives in short order. You know, first we had Lisa Cameron defecting to the Tories. Now we have Ash Regan. Their concern must be that this is the tip of the iceberg. There will be other people that follow. You know,
should there be a by-election there, though, do you think?
Well, I look at Ash Regan. I always think when somebody is elected from a particular party and they no longer represent that party, then there should be an opportunity for constituents to reflect on that. But the more serious issue for me is this was a MSP thought good enough to be a minister for, I think, 4 years, is a senior member of their party and is now defecting. Hamza Yousaf must be looking over his shoulder thinking, who's next? Because there will be others.
Jackie Baillie, thank you very much indeed for joining us this morning. That's Scottish Labour's Deputy Leader.